Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here, and today we're going to do something a little different. As most of you are pretty well aware, or for you new guys, which is the reason why you're watching this video, is that War Thunder is now available to be launched via Steam. So what does that mean? Well, probably there's going to be an influx of a lot of new players, and a lot of people may want to better understand some of the basic fundamentals of this game, what this game is about, aside from the obvious fact that, hey, I'm going to be in fighter planes and bomber planes and dive bombers, and I'm going to be blowing up other planes, blowing up ground targets and the like. But kind of all the things that go into the game. Some of the gameplay dynamics, some of the different aspects of the economy, and then a lot of the popular questions which new players ask when faced with a free-to-play game. Also, I'll be talking about which nations kind of have what features. You know, a lot of people will be asking, which nation should I fly with? You know, what are the different, national characteristics I can expect? So first, I am going to start with the different nations. Which nation should I play? Well, right now I'm looking at the United States. And when you hit the research tab right there, you'll open up the tech tree. And basically, what you'll have is, at start, you have what's known as reserve aircraft. And here, the Americans have the pea shooters, rather humble beginning level aircraft. And then once you get to the Buffaloes are decent aircraft, rather speedy, and at tier 1, lightly armed, and that is what you can expect. Here you can see a 12.7 and a 7.62. What you're going to want to look at, the different characteristics, is just hover your mouse over the aircraft and you'll see all of its paper statistics, where you'll see its speed, climb rate, turn time, and 1-second burst mass. Those are probably the four most important different statistics that you'll want to look at. And essentially, through looking at this, you can get a picture of what kind of aircraft it is. And of those four, generally you won't have any one aircraft, especially at early tiers, that will excel in all of those categories. So generally you can lump your aircraft into a few different categories. The first is turn fighters, the second is boom and zoom, and third is kind of like a little hybrid of both, and it's more of a doctrine per se, but it is energy fighting. And there's certain planes that will cater to each of those styles a little better. Now the Americans are kind of, to me, they're a bit of a hybrid. But at your early tiers, you have these rather maneuverable and decently armed Hawks. And then at tier 4, you have the Kitty Hawk, which has 650 caliber machine guns, which gave it a rather decent 1-second burst mass. Now, the Americans have some pretty awesome bombers overall, as well as they have the iconic P-51, and then they have some 37mm toting Cobra aircraft. So you have a rather expansive tech tree. You have your naval fighters down this, and then you have your army and pursuit aircraft. And then your jet aircraft that you're going to get, the cream of the crop, is the Sabre, and it is a 50 caliber armed jet. Very, very quick. You have the Panther, the Shooting Star, and then you have these new propeller-driven naval aircraft, the Bearcats, which are pretty awesome. If you want to check out any of the gameplay of this, if you're that forward-thinking where you're like, I want to see what high-tiered aircraft are like in each nation before I go down that nation's tech tree, just YouTube it. There will be gameplay videos, there will be review videos on most of these aircraft. That's a good way to do it. I have a lot of videos on the different aircraft, so feel free to check those out. But that is one thing I encourage you to do if that's how you're looking at it. I want to see what high-tiered planes I want to go for before I pick my tech tree. Alternatively, you could say, which beginning level aircraft are easier to get into, what early tier. An early tier, I would say, is tier 0 or reserve through tier 4. And the Americans do rather well in that tier. You got your turn fighters, and then you have the Kitty Hawk, which is has pretty good firepower and pretty good speed, but it's a little trickier to turn. And then you get the Thunderbolt at Tier 9. Really fun aircraft. Its flight model has been changed recently. And that is something else that you new players will want to keep in mind, is that flight models get changed a lot for the better in the long term, as this game is only currently in open beta. So you have a lot more progress to be had. And quick little teaser. We're discussing aircraft, and you look at all these tech trees and you see a lot of aircraft. Now, if you look in the bottom here, it says Army and then Fleet. That's right, at one point, it is not available right now, but at one point, tanks will be made available to play. And then ships. And a common question I get in my YouTube videos a lot is, will planes, tanks, and ships be able to be playable in the same game? Human-controlled ships, human-controlled tanks, and human-controlled planes? And the answer is yes. There will be a separate mode for that. And I also imagine, and this is speculation, that you could even further specify only having planes and ships in a battle, or only having planes and tanks in a battle, potentially. And if you are in a tank and you're really afraid of a B-25 doing a bombing run and just dropping 12 100-pounders trying to carpet bomb you, well, you don't have to play that if you don't want to. When tanks will be made available, at first there will only be 2 tech trees, and I've discussed this in a couple videos because I'm really excited for tanks. But basically there will be the Russian and German tech tree only at first, but then they will add more. And if you only want to do tank versus tank battles, that's how it will be at the beginning, but there will be a mode for that as well. So don't fear, oh my gosh, if I become a tank commander, I'm going to get owned by planes all the time. First off, it's not going to be that easy. Second off, you're going to have the option to only do tank battles. So after that little teaser's out of the way, let's get back to the American tech tree. The Americans are also pretty good at, a lot of their aircraft are capable of carrying bombs and rockets, so they're really good fighter bombers. There's a lot of really good fighter bomber aircraft. But right now the Bearcats, although they are very high tier, are probably some of the best propeller driven aircraft in the game. A lot of fun to play. So the Americans start out, primarily their main armament is 50 caliber machine gun, though the Cobras have 37mm cannons, which are pretty beastly. You have the infamous Catalinas. These things are rather fun. The flying boats or flying whales, depending on, you know, how friendly you are with the aircraft. A decent selection of premium aircraft. So let's talk about premium aircraft real quick. Premium aircraft give you a boost to your economy, and there's 2 currencies: your Silver Lions and your Golden Eagles. Golden Eagles is a premium currency, so that allows you, a lot of people ask, is this game play to win or pay to win? It is obviously play to win. Who doesn't play to win? Is it pay to win? No, it is not pay to win. It is pay to move faster. And as a free-to-play game model, that should be expected. First off, that's normally how free-to-play models will get people to put in their dollars, because they're looking to make money and you're looking to play awesome planes and get all the planes you want. So you're incentivized to pay real currency to get Golden Eagles, and Golden Eagles can be used in a number of ways. One example, aside from premium aircraft, let's look at it real quick. We have the Kai 61-1B at Tier 4, and this is a Japanese aircraft, but you're allowed to play it on the Americans. That's one of the draws of premium aircraft, is that they allow you to play other nations' planes. So you have these 2 Japanese planes, this captured German plane, a British Spitfire, and then you have some experimental or just lesser known aircraft that were produced either in smaller numbers or only in prototypes. The XP-55, the BTD-1, and the XP-50, all of which have different values. And let's just look at this one. Here, the top number, the reward, that means you get a 80% boost to your Silver Lion production over what you would have normally gotten. And then the experience boost is XP, and XP is how you level up. So that's one way golden currency is used. The other one is through a premium account, and we'll take a look at that. And here you can see by spending premium account and 100 golden eagles, last I checked, and feel free to double check me, is somewhere around 60 to 70 US cents. So if you're gonna know you're gonna play 8 hours a day, say you can't put as much money into the game, only sparsely, I highly recommend you to do this just because it magnifies the time. Like the value of the time that you play, you will grind up a lot. So if you're gonna play a lot in a day, spend the 60 cents, buy 1 day of premium, as it will just be a savvy investment. But premium account gives you a 200% experience boost in all game modes, 150% boost to Silver Lions and random battles for the different actions. Just check this out, as it really kind of shows how this game isn't pay to win. It is pay to speed up the process. And there's no real need to speed up the process. It's just kind of, hey, if there's an aircraft you want that P-51, it's going to take a while to grind your way up there. If you want the P-47, if you want a B-17, any of these, you realize, hey, it's going to take a lot of hours to grind my way up there if I'm playing for free. If I'm paying, you can cut that time, in half to in a third pretty much. So you saw premium aircraft and you saw premium accounts. The third way, which really kind of shows how if you're willing to spend a lot, and there will be players to do it, so having this should be expected, pay to speed up the process, is convert experience. And you get a lot of experience just from playing, and you can save that up, and you use this free experience. So right now I'm tier 12 in the United States' tech tree. Now say I wanted to use all, let's see, I have what looks like 18 million free experience. That's pretty awesome. And at the high tiers, it's pretty big. So in terms of experience, now I could use all of that, and I could jump from tier 12 to tier 18, and it would cost me 12,000 lions, or excuse me, 12,000 golden eagles. So that's a lot. But in any of the tech trees, like when you're first starting out, say you grind up one and you're like, oh, I want to go Russian, I want to get that MiG-15, and I've been playing for a while now, and you drop in and you just convert all of your free experience, or the Germans, any of the nations, any of your lesser known ones. So it's a good way to expedite the process. Yeah, tier 13 to tier 19. This converting free experience after you've been playing a while is pretty good at bumping you up and getting you some of the planes you may start playing the game for, actually. In a lot of cases, players will be like, you know what, I want to play the P-51, or I want to play the BF-109, or I want to play the Spitfire. Very iconic aircraft, that you've heard about, you've read about, you've watched old footage on YouTube, and you're like, I want to be that Spitfire pilot. So you'll play the game. Well, that kind of helps you get to that aircraft faster. So overall, American Tech Tree, you have a decent selection of fighters. You have your naval fighters, which can land on carriers using their rear hook. Pretty cool. The level of detail in this game is rather impressive. You have a good selection of heavy bombers with the B-17s. Good selection of premium aircraft. And then you have a lot of good P or pursuit aircraft, which are pretty powerful in many aspects. And then you have the iconic P-51 and the Bearcats. Those are probably my two favorites out of the group, the ones I'm looking most forward to playing. So now let's go to the Germans. Now the Germans are kind of tough. Early tier, your reserve tier aircraft are nothing impressive at all. In fact, I thought Germany was a bit of a grind, but it kind of should be expected because you grind your way up, and once you hit that tier 6, you get your first Messerschmitt BF-109, and you get the E3. And the BF-109s are highly regarded historically, and rightfully so, and in this game they play historically. These guys climb high, they drop on unsuspecting victims, and they use cannons. Unlike the Americans, which have 50 caliber machine guns, Germans have cannons. Lesser ammunition, and this plays a lot into historical battles, which I can talk about later. But cannon armament gives them a higher burst mass, higher hitting power, but less ammunition. You got to be a little bit more accurate. That's why I liked the 50 calibers on the Americans when I first started out being a little inaccurate. More ammunition makes it a little more friendly and the learning curve a little less steep in some of the other game modes. But the BF-109s are infamous. They are beasts in this game. When you learn how to fly one correctly, you can do rather well. So you grind the early tiers. They're not really that good. The Germans are not very good early tier. Now, middle tier is probably where they dominate the most because of the Messerschmitt BF-109s. You also have a really good attacker tree, and attacker are usually heavier twin-engine aircraft with a lot of guns in the nose. And these guys can put on a lot of heat really quickly. So let's look at the Dornier 217J1. In its nose, which means you can fire it at other planes pretty much, is 4 20mm cannons, 4 7.92mm machine guns, and then you have some bomb loads. So if you find a bomber in your sights or anything gets in your sight, basically in a 1 second fire, you hold that trigger for 1 second, that thing is lit up and most likely going down. But as it's a bigger aircraft, it's harder to maneuver. But the attacker tree are a lot of fun. And then it goes all the way up to the Me-410B6, which has 30mm cannons and 20mm cannons. So rather impressive stuff. Then you have the Stuka dive bombers, rather iconic aircraft from early war blitzkrieg tactics that the Luftwaffe implemented. And one of the novelty aircraft is the G version Stukas, which have these 37mm cannons on them. These things are trolls, and if you find a bomber in your sights with this, you will laugh your butt off as that thing burns to the ground. But you're slow, so it's difficult, but there's a lot of fun. So the Germans have one of the most expansive tech trees. You have a decent selection of premium aircraft. You have a good dedicated bomber line. You have a dive bomber line. You have a heavy fighter bomber line. You have your Messerschmitts. You have some Italian aircraft. And then you have the Focke-Wulfs and TAs and HE-162s. And as far as jet aircraft, they don't have the best jet aircraft in the game, but they have pretty good jet aircraft in the game. And one of the reasons for that is because this game goes into the Korean era of combat. So mid-1950s. And that will transition us nicely into the Russians. So here are the Russians. And the Russians have a very expansive tech tree. You have a good selection of premium aircraft that is mostly filled out with modified versions of existing Russian aircraft or Lend-Lease aircraft, which are predominantly Americans, like the Catalina, the Kitty Hawk, and the 2 Cobras. So the Russians have the best reserve tier aircraft in the game. If you're here for biplane combat, the Russians are the obvious choice, the absolute obvious choice. Their biplanes are far superior. They have the best tier 1 aircraft in the game in the I-153 Chaika. This thing is an absolute beast. It has 4 fast-firing machine guns. If you look at the 1 second burst mass of many of the Russian aircraft, it is pretty good when compared to any of the other trees. And the Chaika, the tier 1 here, and you also have another premium one, which can allow you to do rather well in arcade battles where you have a lineup of aircraft, which I will discuss later. But the Russians have the best reserve and tier 1 aircraft in the game. They have pretty good depth going up, but I would say the Russians have the best entry-level aircraft and the best jets at the game and that is currently. Now, Gaijin often, each time a new patch comes out, in many cases they add new planes, and that changes things up. It changes the dynamic and the tiers up. But you have really good depth and a lot of selections. And you have your yak tree here. Pretty decent fighters, though in historical battle where ammunition is limited, many of the Russian aircraft are limited in ammunition count and almost, you could say, armament in some cases, as they usually only have 2 machine guns, one lighter one and one heavier cannon. So pretty good handling aircraft, good climbers, good turners, they feel good, they're pretty, you know, decent to use, but where you're really hampered is with ammunition count. And then there's some novelty aircraft in here, like the Yak-9T, which is a fighter aircraft with a 37mm cannon, similar to the Air Cobras, but the NS-37 cannon historically was better than the Americans' cannon. So that should be interesting, much better than the M4 cannon. But really good fighters, though you're limited on ammunition. Some of the best jets, the MiG-15 BIS is the terror of the jet skies right now, and the Chaika is the terror of the biplane world. But at mid to high tiers, many other nations are more than capable of competing with them. So you have your Yak tree, your MiG tree, your Lavochkin tree. You have really good dive bombers. The IL-2 Sturmovik, very iconic ground attacker. Its thing is a beast. If you're into ground attack, I would suggest the Russians or the Americans. Really, really iconic attacking planes. You have some pretty powerful dive bombers. The Russian tree is a good one to go down if you're going for ground attack, good biplanes, good jets, and they have some fun aircraft intermittently put in the tech tree. And now we get to the British. Now the British are your quintessential turn fighters. These things are rather impressive. So what do they have? They have the Spitfires is probably what they'll be most known for. So from tier 4 to basically tier 12, you have a Spitfire to catch your fancy at all of those tiers pretty much. Spitfires are turn fighters. These things are not the fastest, they're not the best climbers, but man, can they turn. And adding that with the fact that most of them, after from tier 6 and above, have cannons, 20mm cannons, these things have some serious hitting power. So if you have a Messerschmitt who's trying to turn with you, given that Bf-109s are not traditionally turn fighters, he tries to turn with you, you will out-turn him, and you will shoot him down more than likely. Now, if you try to climb with a Messerschmitt, he's going to out-climb you, he's going to take advantage of that, and he'll probably shoot you down. So you have to play this to the strengths of your aircraft, which is a lot of fun. So that kind of goes into each nation kind of having their own areas that they are better at. Now, you have, at the beginning tier, you have your Gladiators and your Nimrods and Furies, a lot of biplanes. You have the Fairy Swordfish Bomber. You know, the Bismarck did not enjoy encountering these, nor did the Italians at Taranto, but it is a rather iconic, albeit very outdated aircraft. But hey, at what tier, at what other nation can you get a torpedo bomber at tier 0? So Spitfires, you got some Hurricanes, which are known for the fighting the Desert Fox in Africa. A lot of premium aircraft. You get some Australian aircraft, the Weirway and the Boomerangs. Get a good, pretty good attacker at tier 2. I'm a big fan of the Havoc. You get the 2 French aircraft, the D520 and the D521, although this one's a gift aircraft. You have the American Hellcat. And then you have a souped-up Typhoon. This one has 20mm cannons. It's a beast. It's also a gift aircraft. And then you have the Mustang Mark 1A. So the British, a lot of people love their British, and I'm a big fan of them. If you think you're more of a turn fighter, and the only real way is to experiment in the game, but the British are one way to go. They have pretty good jets and one of the biggest selections of jets currently, although that is subject to change in the future as more planes are implemented into the game. But as they are known for their turning and pretty good heavy bombers as well, your Wellingtons and your Lancaster, this bad boy, for example, if you're into heavy bombing, this guy can get two 4,000-pound bombs. Rather impressive. I have a video of that out where I drop, and you should see the craters this thing makes. It is a beast if you're into heavy bombing. And bow fighters. I'm surprised I even almost left these bad boys out. These guys are infamous. Probably some of the biggest, this one especially. 420mm in the nose and 650 caliber machine guns. You find something in your sights, you pull that trigger, it's burning up, if not exploding. After you chew off its wings, it's just going to be fun. This guy, heavy fighter, means they're a little tougher to maneuver when compared to obviously single engine, more maneuverable fighters, but they pack the firepower and they are a lot of fun. So turn fighters, well, there's another nation that excels in turn fighters, and that is the Japanese. They have the most limited tech tree at the moment, but you have to keep in mind that Gaijin is going for historical accuracy, and it's at this stage in beta. They have not implemented some of the other additions that we can expect. But with the Japanese, you're limited in your selection. But if you're a turn fighter, this is a turn fighter's paradise, given that you have the A6M planes. These are the Zeros. These guys can turn like no one else. Fragile aircraft, but they can turn and they can shoot. And by they can shoot, because, hey, Baron, what planes can't shoot? Well, I'll show you real quick. Since you asked. Where are you at, son? The Arado 234. No gunners and no direct control fire. Jet bomber. Pretty interesting thing, though. So, the Japanese. These guys have 20mm cannons that do rather well, and given your immense ability to turn on the opponent, you can drop on their 6, spray them with some 20mm, and you just got yourself a kill. They also have a modest selection of heavy fighters, the Kai 45s. These things are pretty well armed. At tier 7, you see this one has a 20mm and a 37mm. So these are your bomber hunters. You have this H6K4 flying boat. This thing is just massive. The Hayabusa. At tier 2, if you're looking for early tier dominance, this Kai 43 is one of the best turning aircraft in the game. This thing is just effortless to fly and do aerobatic maneuvers, drop on people's 6s, but you only have two 12.7mm machine guns, which have a rather slower fire rate. You have to try this out, but if you're looking to be the best turning aircraft in the game, check this guy out. Especially at early tiers, this thing can tear stuff up. And then you have some pretty good, heavier, higher tiered propeller aircraft like the Shinkais at tier 14 and 15. So you're limited, but the aircraft you have are more than adequate. The only area that Japan, I would say, is not very adequate is jet aircraft. All you really have is the Kai 200, which is a copy of the Me-163 right here, which is a rocket-propelled aircraft, which was designed to shoot down, you know, American bombers. But and it was a German design. But that's the only real rocket or jet-powered aircraft you have. But really, if you're playing Japan, you know why you're playing Japan. If you're familiar with Japan's performance historically, you're going after those amazing turn fighters. Some of the best turn fighters in the game. So that kind of goes over the different tech trees. And check out the store. There's different gift packs. If you're looking to spend some money and get some of... If you look at the tech trees and you see gift planes, like this Gift Typhoon, the Gift D521, those are come in packs, and packs will usually give you a bunch of golden eagles as well as some gift planes. So you'll be able to basically grind your way, but then you also have a higher tier aircraft to play as. So you won't always be stuck, you know, in the first couple days when you're playing, you know, in your tier 6 and belows, if you get a higher tiered gift plane. Now, if you want to know more about gift planes, I highly encourage you to just YouTube it. I have some myself, and the ones I don't have, you can easily find. So here's something right here. Gift P51 Mustang. If you're looking for the Mustang, you got your Mustang at tier 13 already without having to grind if you get that gift pack. So that's kind of an incentive to pay some money, you know, invest in the game as Gaijin keeps putting out more content, and we'll put out the army and the fleet at some point. I'm freaking excited for that, so stay posted for that. So yeah, the biggest question I think most people have, and in terms of the core elements of the game, is what nation should I play, and is this game paid to win? I hope I helped you out with that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I will do my best to give you an adequate answer and help you get into this game, as I am really enjoying this game. It is just a lot of fun overall. Now, for me personally, I'm really interested in the Germans and Americans because those are the tanks I'm looking forward to playing the most. Granted, no, I'm not biased. I'm going to play every nation's tanks, but I'm really curious about those, and I've had a lot of fun with the American planes. And then the German BF-109s are a lot of fun. I think the most kills I've ever gotten usually are when I am a turn fighter. I'm a turn fighter by heart, but I'm trying to get into more of a boom and zoomer. I'm trying to expand my skills. This game is just a lot of fun. And there's a lot of good communities. You can check out different clans to join and stuff like that. If you want, you can just chat in general. Hey, I'm looking for some people to play with. And every now and then you can find some people that are good to go. We went over Golden Eagles, Silver Lions, the different tech trees. Now, real quick, there's different game modes, and there's something for everybody. So, say if you're a flight simulator pilot, you're going to want to play full real battles. Now, for the most part, at this current stage, if you're looking for full real battles, you're going to want to check out Germany or Russia, as those two are in the lineup the most. And that is basically as close you can get to a flight simulator in War Thunder. Then there's historical battles, which is currently my favorite game mode. And this, you only have one aircraft, so you have this little lineup here, but you pick one as your primary one, and you select it. Like right now, since I have my Maki Fulgor out, if I go into historical battles, and you can just check it here, you know, which one is going into historicals? Well, the one you selected. And so I would go in at tier 4. And basically what historical battles is you have one aircraft. When you die, you're out. You start out on the airfield. You take off, you find the opponents. You're limited in ammunition. So in arcade, where you have unlimited ammo, here you have to be cognizant of the fact, hey, I only have 812.7mm bullets and 1,007.7mm bullets split with 2 guns, so you have to count how many rounds per gun you have. Climbing rate, it kind of is more important than in arcade mode, as most fighters want to get the higher ground, as silly as that is to say when termed that way. But historical battles is fun in that regard, and the rewards are compensated. You could get like 6 kills in arcade, or you could get 1 to 2 kills in historical, and the values would be different as a result of it's harder to get kills in historical. If you're a good simulator pilot, jump in full real battles and you will be raking in the money in no time. Check out Fly Daily. He's a beast. One of my favorite full real battle players. And then there's arcade, which everyone should start at. So historical, you can play all 5 nations. Arcade, you can play all 5 nations. Full real, currently, and this is subject to change in the future, only Germany and Russia. But arcade, you get to play every plane that you have, But generally you'll have similar tiered aircraft. You don't want to have like a tier 20 jet and then all biplanes, because after your jet gets killed, you're going to have to play biplanes and you're going to be tiered up against your highest tiered aircraft, more than likely. So if you have a tier 20 and then all zeros, once your jet's dead, you're going to be fighting jets with biplanes, which would be pretty funny. So that is arcade, and that is just a quick overview. There's plenty of videos that I have out, and if you just YouTube search, that's what I highly recommend. I mean, who doesn't do that? Whenever I have a question, I YouTube search it. So yeah, those are a little overview on the 3 different game modes. So overall, gone over the currencies, the tech trees, premium accounts, premium planes, a little about the gift packs, and you're going to have to do that. A little research on your own to figure out which one you want if you go that route. And then we address the question, is this game pay to win? No. It is pay to expedite your process in getting the higher tiered aircraft, and we will have tanks and ships, and all of these will have the option of being played together at some point in the future. So my name is Baron, thank you for watching, and if you're curious about any of that stuff, feel free to search my channel. Just search YouTube. There's a pretty good community of a lot of guys putting out good content on a weekly basis. I do daily basis as much as possible because I'm liking this game. I'm Baron. Thanks for watching. It is just going to be awesome. And then we've got engine sounds, sounds of the tank getting hit by various calibers of ordnance, engines starting, engines cutting off, the different RPM levels of engines. So without further ado, let's get into it.